up your frozen dinners, grab your TV tray, and settle in for another episode of the Plus Platoon, your podcast for all things Disney Plus, brought to you by Disney Plus fans. Watch along with us every week as we cover all the new, the old, the good, and the bad on Disney Plus. So put down that remote, don't touch that dial, and welcome your fabulous Plus Platoon host.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Plus Platoon. We're a Disney Plus fan podcast that gives honest, spoiler-filled reviews of movies and shows on Disney Plus. We look at new releases, coming attractions, and we'll even go back into the vault to revisit some of the classic Disney that's on the platform. Make sure you're subscribed and you will never miss a moment. I'm going to bring in Kate. Kate, good to see you this evening.
So good to see you too, Derek.
Next, we have Peter. Pete, glad to have you with us.
Hey, awesome. Glad to be here. And I got my Ahsoka shirt on yet again. I did wash it in between the last episode, though.
If not, we're all over Zoom. We're all over internet anyway, so that's your wife's problem.
Right.
And last but certainly not least, Steve. Steve, glad to have you with us.
Hi, tuners.
Guys, if you have not already, please like, subscribe, share, so that way you will never miss any of the episodes we've got coming up. And we've got a couple real fun ones coming up. So this week, we are talking about the Ahsoka Season 1 finale. Now, I had a hard time coming up with a name for this for our episode. I could have gone very literal, like bringing balance to the universe. Or I could have gone a little bit more obscure, Birth of a First Order. Or go classic rock, The Boys Are Back. Or The End, or just the beginning of the end, with apologies to Led Zeppelin. Or
You're on a roll.
Or Hamilton, Who Stays, Who Goes, Who's Still in the Story. But I decided to play off the terribly butchered tribute to C.S. Lewis that the series did. So I'm going with The Zombies, The Robot, and The Endless Love Letter. So, Pete, as the resident defender of the faith, as it were, what about this series made you see the light side?
So this is the first time I've ever, we've been doing the show for like 2.5 years. And this is the first time I've ever written out notes, because I feel like I enjoyed this show so much. And other than Gina, who's not here to help me out tonight, I'm the only one that's really enjoying it. And the rest of you are kind of middling on it. So I had to write out notes, because I've rarely felt this strongly about something that we've watched that the rest of the group doesn't seem to be enjoying. So I had to spell it out. So be a little patient with me. But this show to me exemplifies what I really love about Star Wars. I know we kind of came into this story in the middle a little bit, right? Where these characters already have backstories, but
time out. We came into this middle of the story a little bit.
Well, I think this story itself, yes. Okay. A lot.
Okay.
But that's part of what Star Wars is. Even the original New Hope, if you think about it, starts with an attack on this ship that, that these characters that already have pasts and everything like that, Darth Vader, Princess Leia, and all these things, even, Obi-Wan Kenobi, all these things, we don't know their history, and we're watching this movie. And that's actually what happens in a lot of movies, but it's really part of stories that we see with Star Wars, is throwing us characters that have a history. In particular, some of these characters, in this case, a lot of these characters did have previous stories, but I still kind of feel like you could get enough out of this show without having to know that complete background of Ahsoka and Sabine and all those Rebels characters. But I think the reason for that is because we are getting really familiar Star Wars archetypes. And to me, that's the key of the best Star Wars stories, is you have to give us something that feels familiar. I mean, Star Wars is narrow. There's not a broad spectrum of what you can do with Star Wars. It's one of the problems with it. Marvel, you can do the opposite. You got everything from space raccoons to, World War II, strongmen, so to speak. But Star Wars, you get certain things. So you got to give us something that feels familiar, but with enough differences that we just aren't repeating what you've seen before. An example I think of is The Force Awakens, which initially started out pretty good, but as the movie went on, it felt very repetitive of what we've seen before. But this show gave us typical Star Wars archetypes. And I originally didn't like Ahsoka, but I realized they had transitioned her from the young apprentice of the Clone Wars to be that wise veteran warrior, reluctant to invest in her Padawan and to get emotionally attached to people and everything like that. You had the young adventurer who's eager yet brash in Sabine. You had the cocky gunslinger in Hera, comedic droids. You got Chopper and Hu Yang. And then you also had your fearsome warrior in Balin. Yet these aren't exactly the same characters as what we've seen before. And we still had Star Wars, the basis of Star Wars, which is a fight between good and evil, in which evil vastly outmans good. But there was enough different here. I know they started out with the find the star mat to get to such and such a place, which can be kind of boring. But I think it took us to new worlds, introduced us new characters. The Nightsisters is something we hadn't seen in live action before. Seeing that magic and things like that was new. The Padawan, Shin Hati, which is the blonde-haired woman, we hadn't seen that kind of role where there's an apprentice Jedi that's not a Jedi. And then a lot of fun creatures, and especially like the Noti villagers, that the little turtle guys. I think they were a lot of fun. And then I've said this before, but I love Thrawn as a villain. I think having a villain that is not just muscle but is thought. I thought they did Thrawn really well in this. I don't know, and I think that it actually worked as a series. And some of these shows that we've seen, particularly I think of Obi-Wan, it felt like they tried to stretch a movie out to, an episodic series, where this, I felt like there was enough going on. There was enough characters that it worked as a television series. And even the ending that we got, it sewed up the story that we were told, but set up something in the future, which is also very Star Wars. If you think back to, Empire Strikes Back and things like that. So I think that's all I got to say. I thought this did so much better at setting up like a big villain than anything we saw in the sequel trilogy. And I enjoyed this series so much. So I got to give a lot of kudos to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau for that. And I apologize for going on so long, but I will let you guys talk now and tell me how wrong I am.
No, we can't tell you how wrong we are till the next question, and trust me, that's
Okay.
coming. But Steve, what did you like?
I liked I liked the sort of the mystic side. So I love the Nightsisters. I thought just visually they were amazing, sort of like getting that horror. And then the zombie stormtroopers, I think that was sort of like a nice twist to normal Star Wars. I really enjoyed that part. I thought some of the choreographed fight scenes were really amazing to watch. I really enjoyed that. I like that. I like that it connected to Rebels because I really enjoyed Rebels. I could talk more about that on the next question. Yes, that's probably about it for me. I like the zombies. I like the Nightsisters, and I like that there's connections to Rebels.
For me, I liked that it went to a different galaxy, to be perfectly honest, because I'm hoping that can open some stuff up. I liked the turtle, snail, crab people. Those were because that showed me that without language, you can create a civilization and a species that has their own personality. It was the closest thing to the Ewoks while being better than the Ewoks. Is how I would say it. It's because they've tried. They have tried so hard to duplicate the Ewoks, and it has not been successful to this point.
You didn't like the Porgs?
Slow roasted over a fire, yes.
Oh no,
but oh come on, you set yourself up for that one.
I did.
But I think that those characters work very well.
Kate,
yeah, Kate.
So I didn't hate it. I really didn't. I do have some things that didn't like really work for me personally. I know I said this before the show, but I could watch an entire series just based on the snail people. You're 100% right that even though we didn't know what they were saying, that was excellent. I really enjoyed 3PO making an appearance. That was a nice little... I enjoyed that because as someone who is not super well versed, it felt like a little Easter egg for me who wasn't super well versed. It was like, I know that one. I really liked, I wasn't sold on Sabine and throughout this, but I actually really liked the relationship between Sabine and Ezra, especially during the final episode. I also appreciated when they had the hologram of Anakin and that she said, like, he made 20 of these. He recorded them. Like, this was the last one he recorded. It touched my heart knowing that was like, it just showed how much that relationship meant to her, even though we already knew that. So I really enjoyed that. Yeah, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever watched, and I can completely understand why people like Pete and Gina loved it, and I love that for them. I'm so glad that they had this show for people like that, because I know if a show like that came out for Marvel, I would love it. So I liked the show for people like Pete and Gina. Boom.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
Because I didn't mention anything about Anakin, but I did really appreciate how the show did such a good job of like kind of having closure with Ahsoka and Anakin, who had, again, this is for the fans of the Clone Wars and things like that. He as a character, I don't think is well served in live action in the prequels, and having that kind of closure with her, I thought gave Anakin more sympathy and also brought a lot to Ahsoka's character.
Okay, that's fair. Now, what was working for the Nightsisters? And I would love to go first on this one, but Steve, I'm going to give you first shot.
Thanks, Derek. It shouldn't have been called Ahsoka. I felt like anything Sabine, Rebels, Search for Ezra, I felt like really overall, it was not Ahsoka's story. It was more Sabine's story. Near the end, really liking Rebels, I was sort of disappointed. I felt like some of they just did not match the Rebels or the feeling there. There's that. There's some good parts of it. Like, I think setting up Thrawn was awesome, but overall story, I was sort of disappointed by the finale. Actually, I sort of was dozing off near the end, and there was nothing that really surprised me. Like when we got to the part with Sabine getting lightsaber. Oh, there it goes. The lightsaber's going to fly in her.
Episodes ago.
Right.
So.
I think very predictable. I felt like wrapping up as a season or a series, we don't know, of it was sort of disappointing.
Okay.
So
Kate, I'll let you go next.
Yeah. So, this series, Derek, are we just talking about the finale, or are we talking about the series as a whole?
Series as a whole.
Okay, thank you. The biggest thing that was hard for me was the casting of Ahsoka. And I love Rosario Dawson. I think she is an unbelievable actress. I just don't think she was right in this role. It didn't work for me. I loved the few episodes of Clone Wars and of Rebels that we watched. I loved Ahsoka. And I know she's been through trauma, like big bad trauma. I get it. She's on the mental dark side. She's not on the dark side, but like she's like been through it. I get it. But her voice just didn't sound right. Her mannerisms didn't feel right. She was very stoic. She wasn't, even in Ahsoka's darkest moment, she's still playful, like childlike. I don't know. I don't know if I'm saying the right words, but so in the finale, even when she was like, they were like, "You're going to die alone," and she was like, "I'm never alone." Like, it didn't sound right to me.
It was very Bette Midler. You'll never walk
Yeah,
alone.
it just never. Oh yeah, it just didn't. So that was probably my biggest hang up. Oh, excuse me. Across the board in the whole series. I don't think this was the worst Star Wars series. Again, I think that this was a kiss from the Star Wars universe to the mega fans, and I love that. Oh shoot, I had something else. It's gone. I'll think of it. But that was probably my biggest hang up across the board. What about you, Pete?
No, nope.
Oh.
Can I say one? Can I say one rebuttal on Ahsoka herself? I agree with you, Kate. Rosario Dawson definitely played the character differently, but to me, she played it as instead of being the young brash Jedi, now she's playing it as the older, wiser. The what do you call it, the role model versus the Padawan. And I kind of get why they went that way, but I would completely agree with you that the fun Ahsoka that she was in Clone Wars and Rebels was not here. So go ahead, Derek. Sorry.
Okay. First, Pete, you said that the characters were introduced enough as new characters that you would not have had to have watched any of the older stuff in order to know what's going on. You're telling me if I had not watched any of Rebels, I would not have been totally lost? I mean, I'm convinced I would have been totally lost. I'm convinced it was essentially the next season of Rebels.
It's hard for me to tell that. I would be curious to talk to somebody that hadn't seen any, if that's the case. I felt early on, yes, but I thought as the story went on, they introduced the characters enough. But
okay,
there's certainly an argument for that, for sure.
Okay. You mentioned, my biggest argument is you said, there's not a lot you can do with Star Wars. No, there is not a lot that has been done with Star Wars. There is so many other universes and galaxies and so many other people that they could have brought in that, Kate, I hated that they brought in 3PO. I hated that they brought in 3PO and that Leia Organa was the one that bailed her out. I want to see something that is not related at all to any of the original trilogy characters at all, because that would tell me there are still more stories to tell. If there's no way you can do it without referencing the big three or the big four or five, if you include the Emperor and 6 or Vader, if you can do a story without any of those, I might be interested that there are still stories to tell. Otherwise, you're just adding on to stories that are currently there. Which was my biggest complaint about this is this was not anything new. This was just more of the same, especially when they brought in 3PO. To me, Steve, you said something about, you like the fight scenes. Some of them I
Yes.
will agree with you. Some of them were not good. Some of the lightsaber battles were very basic. I have actually had some rudimentary stage sword fight training, and there were a couple of those that were very, it was all the 8 basic moves of a basic sword fight training. It was just, you could tell, oh my gosh, the crutch we're going to use in this is lightsaber battles, or battles. Don't get me started with the zombie stormtrooper thingies, unless that has some way. Pete, did that come from the novels at all? The undead stormtroopers, does that have any basis in any of the Thrawn novels or comics or anything?
I'm not sure it's from the Thrawn novels, but it raising the dead warriors like that is from Clone Wars, from the Nightsisters. So that has been established before, just not in any live action thing.
Okay, that's fair then, that it's somewhere there before, because one of the things I almost said is canon. We don't need no stinking canon. As seems like sometimes they're just making things up on that as they go. Oh, we need someone to come back. Oh, I know. All of a sudden, we can force project. I want to know all these, being able to stop a lightsaber with the Force. Where was that when in the original trilogy? Where was that with? I mean, if they can do that here, Obi-Wan should have been, and Qui-Gon should have been able to do it and absolutely destroy Darth Maul. I'm not even going to get into the different lightsaber battle tactics from the original versus the end. I get why those are different. But to change up how the Force works, I've got a little bit of an issue with it. And we won't even get into Force projections. But
when you say force projection, what do you mean force projection? Like
in The Last Jedi, when Luke force projects himself to another planet.
But that's not in this, but okay, yeah.
No, it's not. As I said, I'm not even going to get into that. That's a whole separate rant. Kate, were you the one that said you liked when they brought in the holograms, or was that no, you were the one that said the hologram recordings of Anakin that had recorded all those different things?
Oh, yeah. Yes, that was me.
Yeah.
Did that not feel like Iron Man in Endgame? I'm sorry. I mean,
yeah, I get that. Yeah, it gave that kind of vibe.
To me, that's one of those, really, the fact that he did all these before he changed over. I want to know how he knew he was going to change over. I mean, why did he do these recordings? Pete, why did he do these recordings?
I don't know why he did them, but they actually established that in Rebels that he had left a bunch of recordings for Ahsoka to help her train. I don't know if it's because of when she left the Order or what the reason was, but yeah, that had already been established too.
Again,
he had left her a bunch of recordings.
Again, not something that we had introduced to us in this series. Just saying.
But it was explained here.
Yeah.
I thought it was a pointless plot device to move the plot along. But they could have done a better idea.
Yeah. My other thought was, Pete, you mentioned how neat it was to have someone not of the Jedi Order having a Padawan or trainee. Are we ignoring Ahsoka and Sabine? I'm just
that too, but I liked that too, that Sabine was not strong with the Force, and I will agree it was cheesy at the end. We all knew it, and it was cheesy at the end. Suddenly she was able to do it, but I liked up to that point that it's like, okay, I'm going to train you in this, even though I know you're not necessarily this, super powered person. So I don't know.
Right.
I liked a lot of that stuff. Sorry.
Okay. And I get that. You had said that that was a great thing without mentioning that they'd already done it with Sabine and Ahsoka. So
Well,
I'm just
both of them were in
Right.
this show, and it was a unique situation to have non-Jedi trainees. I just
okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I kind of enjoyed like the relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine, even though it was something new that wasn't in the original Rebels, and then
Okay.
also have that mirrored with Balin and Shin.
Okay. That's fair. To me, my biggest issue, you've drugged me through 8 40-minute episodes, and you're going to leave my 2 main characters somewhere that is not even closely related to what's going to happen next. You've made me try and care about Ahsoka and Sabine, and now you're telling me essentially we might never see them again in this different galaxy. Because I know this is all setting up the Mandoverse movie. It's all setting up Mandoverse Endgame. Let's be honest. But if they don't come back, why could this not have been a 90-minute Star Wars Halloween special, The Return of Ezra? I mean, if you're never seeing those two again, I think you will. A, because Rosario Dawson is a name, and they need a name. B, the whole him thing with him standing as the king who balances the force with the girl, when the statue that the good side is broken and the bad side sister is still there, and whatever that whole. They tried to be Empire Strikes Back with the end of this is all going to happen next, and we know there's going to be something else involved. And I think they tried to do too much of that. There's too many strings left open.
Derek, I think that was my part. It got done, and I had no feeling. Like it got no emotion from me. Like that's it.
No, I had an emotion, relief. So,
I will say valid.
Thank you. Okay, Steve, anything that we mentioned that did not work for you?
Like I said,
I'm sorry. I know I said Steve.
Pete. Like
Steve's already gone. Pete, anything else that did not work for you?
So I will say, like, we kind of knew where this show was going to end up, right? With Thrawn getting back, and it was one of the real fatal flaws of Mandalorian season 3 was that we kind of knew where it was going to go. So the whole series was just leading up to a conclusion that we knew. One of the problems of this series, and I will agree, to me, it was silly leaving some of these characters on this particularly Ahsoka and Sabine on this far off planet. If they do another series, they're getting back.
Yeah.
It's kind of silly doing it this way. I get maybe Shin and Balin. They kind of wrote themselves into a corner only because the guy that plays Balin passed away suddenly, and so that they might have some tricks to do with that character.
I think they're almost going to have to recast him.
They're going to have to, the way they left it. They're going to have to. So yeah, I would agree. While I really liked most of the final episode, I didn't think it necessarily tied. I did like Ezra getting back, because to me that was the central point of this series. Was you knew they were never going to stop Thrawn anyways, so it was getting Ezra home. But most of the ending I did not particularly care for. I will say that.
Okay. Now, without big, huge wholesale changes, are there any small things that could have made this series more successful for the non Star Wars insider. Okay, Kate, you're shaking your head. Nothing could have made this more successful for you.
More of the snail people. More of the snail people. Yeah, better casting of Ahsoka. Like that's better casting of Ahsoka. Maybe give us a tiny bit more Ezra, because we like saw Ezra, but I don't feel like we got a lot of meat from like what he went through and stuff. Kind of. Maybe I just missed that.
No, you
That
didn't.
happens.
You didn't miss it.
So maybe a little bit more from Ezra so that I could like know what happened and know, I don't know. But yeah, that's probably it. Pete?
Yeah, it's tough because I do agree with you. Ahsoka didn't feel like the character, if you've watched those earlier shows, didn't feel like that character as much, and even Sabine didn't quite fit. And again, I know this is 10 years later, so I try to be forgiving about it, but Ahsoka always had like a lightness to her and a kind of very like, sarcastic jokiness to her, and it was almost completely missing from this, and I would have liked to have seen a little more of that. And just in general humor. Star Wars has always had some amount of humor, and I think this show could have been helped a little bit by having a little more humor in it, other than Chopper going.
It didn't have much humor at all.
It didn't. I think that's why everybody was drawn to the little snail people, because they were kind of funny too, and I agree with that. And that's what I'm saying is like the show needed to be a little less self-serious, because in the end, Star Wars is like, again, space wizards.
It's a space western. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, right. So, Steve?
More focused on Ahsoka's story and not so much Sabine's story. Like if Ahsoka is in the Stark space, for the non-big mega Star Wars fans, tell us where she was to where she is now. I thought that would have been interesting. Derek?
For one, to me, if this was the story they were going to tell, they didn't need 8 episodes.
You always say that.
You're right, and I always mean it. Tell me there couldn't have been 2 episodes worth of stuff that they cut. I mean, but it's also one of those where, okay, you're going to make this story focus on Sabine. So make it focus on Sabine. Give me what she's thinking. Don't make her this 16-year-old girl that's keeping everything to herself. And I say that because I teach 16-year-old girls, so I know of which I speak. And it's 16-year-old boys too. But this, I'm not really going to say what I mean. I don't care that she gave the thing to what's his face with the. I don't care that she gave the secret snitch to the guy with the beard.
Right.
But I'm sorry, if it's bothering her, show us that. Not just, oh, I'm sorry. Or if it's not bothering her, show us that. I'm really not sorry that I did this because I got to see Ezra. Yes. Don't make it no, I'm sorry for doing this and I'm sorry I disappointed you, but not really meaning it. But to me, as I said, make it not so many insider cues. I think honestly, you talked about humor helping connect it to people. I just lost the name. The series that we all liked, the guy who was taken prisoner.
Andor
was not funny. Andor was not funny at all. But we loved it because it treated it as a completely unique character that was in a completely unique situation, and we got to know what he was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
They treated this like the cartoon that was written for kids in Rebels, but they tried to make it for adults. Except there's a good way to do serialization. There is a very good way to do serialization. And we saw it last week with Zorro, where yes, you needed to watch most of it, but after 2 or 3 episodes, they had gone over all the major plot points to get you completely caught up. That didn't happen in this that didn't happen in this show. If you had not watched Rebels, you had no clue. You had no clue who Thrawn was. You had no clue why Thrawn and Ezra were there. You really didn't. They never said in this why Thrawn and Ezra were in a different universe. They just said, remember when they left? Oh, yeah, let's go get them.
Yeah, agree.
We never heard, they never said, by the way, they took these super space whales. It was just assumed that we knew that when she saw the whales that they were going to go to a different galaxy because that's how they got there. They never said that. We watched a minimum amount of Rebels. We watched 8 or 9 episodes, probably 10 maybe. They should, if you're going to start a new series like this and truly call it something new, you need to assume, it's like I tell my kids writing their essays, you need to assume I know nothing about anything that's going on.
And they did not do that.
They did not do that. And very few series to this point have done that. Andor was successful because, yes, you end up knowing that he is in Rogue One, but they made you care about him as a person. You did not need to have seen Rogue One in order to understand Andor.
Right.
Most of the Star Wars and most of the Marvel stuff, you can't say that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I do agree. I think they could have done a better job of setting up this story and finding a way to tell us some of the history of these characters within the story. I don't know how they would have done that by starting off with, I don't know, having at the beginning, they could have had like a group of kids on Lothal that were hearing the story of the rebels or something like that.
Yes.
I don't know, but I agree.
The true fans would have hated it, but give me that first episode as these are who all these characters are.
Yeah, I get that for sure.
Kate, anything you'd add? No. Okay.
Nope.
So, as we always, Pete, any last
more Wildcats?
More Wildcats? No, we are not going High School Musical at all. No. Okay. As we always do, when we see a full season of a series like this, we always rate it as cups of pixie dust out of 5. Kate, as a season series, what would you give Ahsoka?
Well, I have a question first.
Okay.
The question is, what did I rate Andor? I'm going to ask because I want to get an idea.
I was going to ask the same question.
What did I rate? Yeah, I want to know what I rated Andor.
Kate, you were at a 3 on Andor.
Oh, wow. Okay. And what about The Mandalorian?
The last season of Mandalorian. A 2.
Did I not rate it? A 2? Were there any other big Star Wars shows we watched?
Obi-Wan.
Not really.
Obi-Wan. We watched Obi-Wan, didn't we?
We watched Obi-Wan. Yeah, but I'm gonna go Obi-Wan I'm gonna say your guys' ratings were all unbalanced by the fact that we had Warren on that night. I was about the only one who didn't care. Obi-Wan, hold on. Obi-Wan, Kate, you gave a 4 to Obi-Wan.
I put Obi-Wan over Andor?
Yep.
Wow. I'll give Ahsoka a 2.
Okay. Pete, you want your ratings?
Just for Andor.
You give Andor a 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna give this a 4. I think I actually like Andor a little bit better, and I probably underrated Andor a little bit just because it was very slow early on. But I think that I think I can't really give this a 4.5. and certainly not a 5. There, I mean, I sit here and defend it because I think to me, it's so much better than what you guys think of it. And but no, I gotta give it it's still a good grade, so I'm gonna give it a 4. Yeah. But I will say I'm more looking forward to another season of Andor than I am to another season of Ahsoka if it happens.
Oh yeah, Steve.
3. It's nowhere near Andor.
He gave Andor a 4.5.
I know I did. Yeah, Andor is so much better than this. So this is a solid 3.
I'm going to go with 2 on this, just because it is not the worst series we've watched by far. It's not the worst thing we've watched even lately.
Right.
But it wasn't good, and I'm never going to go back. So, to me, I mean, it's a 2. I will say I liked it better than Elemental personally, but just that is what it is. So
Elemental was just not very
that's
good.
a tough comparison.
That is a tough comparison.
that's what we do on here.
I know.
I liked it better than Elemental too.
I liked Guardians better. I like the last Guardian. I like Guardians 2 better than this. I mean, it's just one of those where
Guardians 2 or Guardians 3?
2.
2 was fantastic. 3 was rough.
Yeah. And we all okay. Most of us rated 3 as rough.
I like the Guardians movies. I'm sorry.
Okay. Guys, have you ever seen, you guys have all seen Singing in the Rain, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Remember when Lena goes, I liked it.
Yeah.
To something that was absolutely terrible.
I liked it.
Hey. Okay.
What a great
So
movie.
I sent this to you guys. Guardians 3 has like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I am not
good. That does not mean it's good.
I am not what I'm saying is I am not the only person that likes that movie.
No, you're not. That doesn't mean you're right. So.
Well, we're all right. We're all allowed our own opinions on
to be
something.
fair, I loved The Sandlot, and all of you did not.
No.
Oh no! Rescuers Down Under. Rescuers Down Under. I love Rescuers. Well,
I gave Rescuers Down Under a 3. Come on.
oh,
that was
that's fair.
generous, Derek.
That was generous.
So,
That was
Well,
generous.
I'm gonna say I bet Gina loved the end of the series too. So I don't have her here to defend things.
Based on her stuff she sent me, it was okay, but all of our criticisms were valid.
No, I think your criticisms are valid. I mean, I don't think it's not a perfect show, and it certainly is Rebels season 6. 100%. And 100%, as I said, I felt like it went on. I could see where it would work as a standalone lone show, but 100% having watched Rebels helped a lot of explanation for it, for sure.
Kate, what have we got this week on the Disney Plus news?
Let me tell you, I had to make sure I wasn't muted because I usually mute myself. On the Disney Plus news, Disney has officially announced that they are going to begin limiting password sharing starting November 1st in Canada. While no date has been announced for the US restrictions, they are expecting sometime in 2024. These are expected to be similar to Netflix, which limits sharing to those at the exact same primary address unless the account holder pays an extra $8 per month.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's...
But how much money is this losing? I mean, I'm
fair.
just saying.
Yeah, that's fair.
But, and I'm sure not the only person like this, my daughter is in college. Why should she not be able to use, when she's at my house, she can watch Disney Plus, but when she's at college, she can't?
And see, I think I mean, everything's open for abuse, but maybe one off-property address.
Yeah, no, I don't see an issue with limiting it, but I mean, come on. I mean, my kid shouldn't be allowed to watch, okay, fine, she's like an adult and she lives on her own. Okay, yeah, but like she's in college. She's got to pay for Disney Plus when I have a membership. Sorry, stupid.
Yeah, fair enough.
I agree. Oh, sorry, that's me. Next up, in a move that will go almost totally ignored by us on the Platoon, except by probably Pete, the entire Air Bud franchise is finally coming to Disney Plus. While we won't make you sit and watch these, they do have more fans than you can shake a stick at. Luckily,
Oh,
those
Lord.
fans will
Who
then
wrote that?
go get the stick after you have tossed it away later. I didn't write this. I just read it.
I had to have some fun this week. It wasn't watching Ahsoka.
How do you say that I'm the one that cares about this? Other than my caring about it is that I better not have to watch it.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. To be fair though, because for those of you following along at home, it came up about talking animal movies, and Pete was like, "Please don't make me watch this." To be fair, some of the funniest and best movies I have watched have been animal and or baby talking movies. I would like to show you.
Hey, you need to get out more.
I would like to show you the entire Look Who's Talking series.
I agree.
The entire?
All three of them.
No. Okay. I have done this very, very.
No. Hold on.
I will give her one.
One was funny.
I will give her one Look Who's Talking movie.
Yeah,
I agree. One was good. After that, no.
The Look Who's Talking series. I would also like to point you to Baby Geniuses. Also great.
Oh, okay, God, turn her off.
She essentially just lost it. Kate, you've had too much wine. You've had too much whatever. No, none of the bait. None. None. You're talking. That's like saying Baby Weems is brilliant. I mean, I'm sorry. No.
The Homeward Bound movie is so good.
Now,
those animals do not move their mouths, so I allow it.
Okay.
If it's the animal thinking and you're hearing their thoughts or whatever. Where I don't like it is when the animals move their mouths like they're actually talking to each other.
Okay, that's fair. Well, they don't do that. They don't do that in Look Who's Talking.
Just move on to the next one.
No, they don't.
Move on to the next one.
Yeah, they don't do that in Look Who's Talking. Those are great movies. Moving on to the topic of shows Derek may actually like, season 2 of Behind the Attraction will debut on Disney Plus on November 1st. Along with rides previewed are Big Thunder Mountain, Indy, Pirates of the Caribbean, and an episode devoted to food. It looks like it will focus on different versions of rides from around the world.
I'm excited. I'm thrilled about this. We will be doing this series. I don't know if we'll be doing it as a series or we may be doing it as each individual episode at some point because we really enjoy. Okay, while the first one wasn't great, it was a lot of fun to talk about. So
yeah, it wasn't the greatest Disney history series ever, but I think we all got enjoyment out of episodes of it.
I mean, we all gave it most of us gave it it was right around a 3 to 3.5. Most of us. Steve didn't have his taste buds acquired yet. So now next week to my eternal, they're doing a season 2 of Loki. So Kate and Steve, give me a 2-minute, and yes, I'm going to set a timer, summer lead up from season 1 and anything else we need to know before we hit season 2. Whoa. Time on. Steve, have you not seen season 1?
I've seen season 1. Okay. I'm trying to remember.
Steve, but I think you meant Pete. Okay.
I meant Pete. Guys, I've been doing that a lot tonight because
I've seen it.
Because based on Andor, this is my third drink. Okay. So Pete and Kate have agreed to give us a 2-minute summary.
Okay,
go.
Pete, you want to
go? So Loki, from a point in one of the movies, is we find out that there's such things as variants where characters do things that they aren't supposed to do as part of the sacred timeline, and this Loki variant is pulled into the Time Variance Authority. He is
okay, Pete.
tasked.
Am I correct or not that it is actually from the end of the original Avengers movie when
Correct.
he escapes?
It happens in Endgame, but the moment is from the Avengers movie when in Endgame they start messing with the time.
Fair enough.
So he escapes from the 2012 time period, which is Avengers, the first movie. I'm already probably over 2 minutes. He ends up in this Time Variance Authority, which is supposed to keep everything on the sacred timeline. They're going to kill him, but then instead they say, we need your help to capture another variant of you who is a female variant. He tracks her down, and then they end up going to find the person that's controlling everything, who is He Who Remains, which is the first version of Kang that we see in all of Marvel. This version of Kang tries to convince them to run things, and instead Sylvie kills him, and that creates the multiverse that we've been dealing with in Marvel, unfortunately, ever since. And Loki is thrown back into the TVA, and that's where and that's where it left off. So it's moving forward from that moment after the one version of Kang is killed and the multiverse is created. So we don't really know what's going to happen here. Did I sum that up well?
Yeah, that was basically it. Loki gets in trouble. He goes to this place, and he realizes that there's a whole bunch of variants, and then there's a bunch of other Lokis, including an alligator Loki and a girl Loki, and that's
who apparently in this season is going to work at a McDonald's. I mean,
excellent.
Yes.
And you meet Kang, who's like the big bad. He's the new Thanos.
Only not as interesting.
Only not as interesting.
Or as well.
He's a pretty bad dude.
Yeah, and from the looks of things, it feel to anyone else like the trailers they've brought out with feel like some of those movies where they put all of the best parts in the trailer?
I don't know. I can't tell.
I mean, it's just, it feels like we're gonna be mixing Doctor Who and Marvel way too much, and with a little bit of Quantum Leap in there also. I mean, it's just
the whole thing is very Doctor Who-ish.
Yeah,
but that means Pete's not going to like it. It's too timey-wimey.
Yeah, I'm not a Doctor Who fan. I'll be honest.
From the looks of things, it looks like it's going to be incredibly timey-wimey. So
yeah, we'll see. I did really enjoy the first season, so and I will say the character of Loki is a very entertaining character. So we'll see whether Tom Hiddleston can carry the show again.
Yes. I will say that Pete, as far as season 1, Pete gave season 1 a 5. Steve gave it a 3.5. Kate gave it a 3. I gave it a 1.5. And I would probably stick with that. I would rather watch Ahsoka again over the first season of Loki. So,
but it was shorter.
It didn't seem it. No, by minutes it might not have been, because the Loki episodes were long.
Were they?
They were like an hour each.
Maybe.
So anyway, guys, Loki will be our show next week, but it will not be all we talk about every week at all. We do have a couple openings. I know we have an opening in like 3 weeks, because we were originally planning on Indy coming out then, and it's not going to be coming out then. So we do need a suggestion. I have an idea, but if you guys have suggestions, please email us at plusplatoon@gmail.com. Let me know what you want to hear us do. We have new episodes coming out on Thursdays on YouTube and all the major podcasting services, except tonight's, which is going to be released a little early because I want to get it out there, because I think you guys want to know what we thought about Ahsoka. So for Pete, Steve, Kate, and Absentia Gina, we will see everyone next week. Bye, guys.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
Bye.
for watching this week's episode of the Plus Platoon. Be sure to subscribe to the Plus Platoon podcast to keep getting great content each week. Then head over to Apple Podcast and leave those 5-star reviews as they help make the Plus Platoon visible to even more Disney Plus fans. Also, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to the Plus Platoon channel, where you can watch all future episodes live. If you have a question for the Plus Platoon, please send us an email to plusplatoon@gmail.com or connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram @plusplatoon.
The Plus Platoon is a Disney Plus fan podcast and is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company or the Disney Plus streaming service. All opinions expressed on the show are solely those of the individual hosts and in no way reflect the views of the Walt Disney Company.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to stay tuned for next week's episode because the Plus Platoon is to be continued.